Okay, today we're going to start with feedback loops. This should take 5 minutes, and we're going to spend the rest of our time doing an introduction into the cell cycle. Okay, when it comes to feedback loops, you either want to enhance something that is already happening or you want to undo what is currently happening. Let's do negative feedback first. In plain English, negative feedback means you want to undo what is being done. If your blood sugar is too low, elevate it. If your body temperature is too high, lower it. The example that we mentioned several weeks back was, let's say that Ryan eats some Halloween candy. In less than an hour, his blood sugar has elevated. This would be called hyperglycemia. Hyper means high, glyc means sugar, ema means blood. So as of right now, he's hyperglycemic. Having excessive sugar in your bloodstream is actually a dangerous prospect because sugar can damage your circulatory system, especially in the regions far from your heart where circulation is very poor, like your ankles and your feet. If you've been out and about in your daily lives and you may have seen someone at the store or whatnot, and their lower legs seem to be various colors like purples and pinks and reds or blues even, they may suffer from a condition called peripheral arterial disease. And some of that can be attributed to, in some cases, some poor circulation due to sugar in the blood. You see it a lot in diabetics. In fact, some diabetics have to have their feet or even legs cut off or amputated because the circulation is so bad, the tissues are beginning to die because the blood can't get there. So in response to Ryan's high sugar levels in his blood, the pancreas secretes insulin. Insulin is a hormone. In individuals with type 1 diabetes, their immune system thinks that their pancreas is the bad guy. And so their immune system attacks their pancreas, hence they can't secrete insulin. And they cannot do what I'm about to say the insulin does. In type 2 diabetes, the body does not recognize the insulin that the pancreas is producing. And so sugar stays in the blood. So insulin travels throughout the body via the bloodstream. Your pancreas is part of your endocrine system. Endo means within, and crine or crine means to secrete. We have endocrine glands and we have exocrine glands. Exocrine is secreting, but not in your blood, like sweat. Sweat doesn't go in your blood, so it's called an exocrine gland. But your pancreas, your pituitary, your adrenals, your thyroid, they're called endocrine glands, which means their secretions go into your bloodstream. So insulin travels throughout the bloodstream, and insulin escorts sugar into cells. This is a win-win. The first win is that you're getting that sugar out of your blood. Remember, it can damage your blood vessels, so that's good. And the other win is that you're getting the sugar into your cells. What major process in your cells requires sugar as a reactant? Cell respiration. You have to get sugar into your cells or you're not going to be able to produce a lot of ATP. Yes?
Does it ever bring too much sugar into the cells?
Well, there is a place where you put the excess sugar, and that's in your muscles and in your liver. It's glycogen. Glycogen is the big chains of carbohydrates.
That builds into the fat.
No, not necessarily. You need, we store sugar. It is more short term. You need it for muscle growth and repair. But if it's not used over long term, it can be converted to fat. All right, so insulin escorts sugar into cells. That means that it's out of the blood, and so blood sugar levels can return to normal levels. And in case you all were curious, what if your blood sugar gets too low? There's another hormone from your pancreas called glucagon that actually elevates your blood sugar levels when they're too low, so you can get within the safe range. The sugar that's used to elevate your blood sugar levels comes from your liver and your muscles, which was glycogen, and it gets broken down to glucose. So this is all just negative feedback, where whatever is happening, you want it to not happen. If your blood sugar level is getting too high, you want it to not continue down that path, so you need to undo it. Now, the other one is called positive feedback. This basically says, whatever you're doing, do it, and do it more. Continue what is happening. And amplify. If you worked at Hollister and you sold 5 pairs of jeans in an hour, your manager might come to you and say, that was really great. Can you do 5 pairs? So you sell 5 pairs of jeans, and he goes, wow, that was awesome. How about 9? And so you want to not only do what you're doing, but try to do it better. Try to do it more intensely. And so an example with this is typically childbirth. So when it comes for that magical moment that Junior is going to be born and emerge into the world, typically the fetus's head is pressing up against the mother's cervix. If you're unfamiliar with the female reproductive anatomy, I have it up on the whiteboard. The cervix is the bottom of the uterus and the top of the vagina. And when that fetus's head presses against the cervix, signals are sent to the pituitary gland to secrete oxytocin. Anybody know where the pituitary gland is located? It's in your brain. Your pituitary gland is called your master gland because it controls the rest of your endocrine system. Oxytocin is called the love hormone because its levels are pretty high during sex and during childbirth. You're about to find out why the levels are high during childbirth. So the signals are sent to the pituitary gland to secrete oxytocin. Oxytocin is secreted because this is an endocrine gland. It's secreted into the blood. Oxytocin travels to the uterus via the bloodstream. Now, the uterus is it's an organ that is composed of smooth muscle. You all some of you may work out at the gym. You're working out your skeletal muscle. The muscle is connected to your bones. Smooth muscle is what makes up hollow organs like your esophagus, your stomach, your intestines, the uterus, and even blood vessels. You can't control it. Oxytocin stimulates the uterus to contract more, instigating the fetus's head to push against the cervix more. And I'm not going to continue this because it's like a never-ending loop, and the whole thing is repeated. When the fetus's head pushes up against the cervix, that means more oxytocin will be secreted, which means there'll be more muscle contractions, which means there'll be more pushing up against the cervix. And it's going to keep happening, keep happening until the head bursts through the cervix, not bursts, but the head passes through the cervix, out of the birth canal, which is the vagina, and then out of the body, you have a little boy, you have a little girl. And typically when, you know, it makes sense to this, guys, when the baby's out of the body, there's nothing left pushing up against the cervix, so the contractions tend to stop. Fun fact, in case you didn't know this, we all have an umbilical cord. Humans are considered placental mammals. There's 3 types of mammals on Earth. There's a type of mammal that lays eggs. There's only two of those. There's an echidna and a platypus. Then you have marsupials, which they give live birth, but it's not fully developed. So they have to spend the rest of their development outside the womb in the pouch. Kangaroos, wombats, wallabies, koalas, Tasmanian devils, except for possums. Possums are North American marsupials. And then you have placentals, which are us. We are fully developed when we are born. We don't need any more gestation. And so when you're born, we have our umbilical cord. Well, what the doctors will tend to do is they'll pull on the umbilical cord a little bit like a rope, and they'll pull out the placenta. My high school bio teacher had his son's placenta in the cabinet, in the classroom. It was weird. Every time you wanted to like punish us, he would just put his son's placenta on our table, stare at it. Yeah, strange guy. Some animals will eat the placenta of their offspring, like wolves. And furthermore, when that umbilical cord is still attached, the mother is doing the breathing for the baby. And so one of the first things that the doctors do is they take that little squirter device and they suck up all the moisture that might be in the nostrils and the mouth, and you want to get it out of there. So when you cut the cord, the baby has to breathe on its own. You don't want it to gargle and maybe drown in its own juices. So you got to get all that stuff out of there. Because once you cut that cord, it's breathing on its own. Okay. Well, anyway, this is positive feedback. And somebody in first period asked, well, how come that when she's giving birth, they tell her to push? If it's smooth muscle, why does she have to push? Well, to answer that, it's the same muscles that you use to poop. And those are skeletal muscles, your abs and your pelvic muscles. So that just helps the effort. And yes, sometimes mothers poop during childbirth, and they might poop on the kid. I'm just saying. Dan, you're going to be there for that one day? You're not going to be in the room?
Yeah, maybe.
You're going to close your eyes?
Probably.
You're going to at least hold her hand? Say it'll all be okay?
I'll do that and then close my eyes.
You're going to, okay. You're going to hold her hand. She's going to yell at you and say, this is your fault.
Yeah.
Yes, Ayla.
So, what are the medical complications of like keeping like the baby on the umbilical cord? Like, does it die?
Well, you're going to pull the placenta out, which is what the umbilical cord is attached to.
Okay, so as soon as that's out,
Yeah.
the umbilical cord like doesn't.
Yeah, some people call that afterbirth. Just it follows the babies. You see that with cats and dogs, they'll give birth and all of a sudden there goes the rest of it. Yeah.
So why is it that some people are in labor for like a really long time?
It differs on the person. It really varies from person to person. There's just natural variations in everybody. Some people are in labor for an hour. Some people are in labor for 24 hours. It just depends. Everybody's different. And that gets me to, when it comes to labor, you might start your labor pains. Maybe the contractions are 10 seconds long and they're 15 minutes apart. But as you get closer to the moment, the contractions might be 30 seconds long and they might be 5 minutes apart. So that tends to be the trend. As you get closer to the actual moment of childbirth, the contractions get longer and they get closer together. But when you first start, they're short and they're further apart. Yeah.
So if you inject like oxytocin into the pregnant like female or the one giving birth, would that speed up the process? Or?
You don't want to overdo it. I mean, you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to hurt her. I mean, the muscles are going to contract normally. You don't want to hurt her or the fetus because all those contractions might ram it into the cervix. You want to keep things copacetic, level playing field, within a range. Everything has to be within a range. You don't want to have too much of something because that can be disastrous. All right, guys. Now, this is what I view as the main event. Let's get into an introduction to the cell cycle. Okay. Now, the reason that we did the feedback loops is your body has to know when to grow cells and when to stop growing cells. When do we need to grow? When do we need to grow more? Or when do we just need to stop? Or are we not growing cells and we need to? Or are we growing cells and we should stop? You need to know those. That's done by feedback loops. So the cell cycle is how eukaryotic organisms, like you and I, grow, replace, and repair cells. This is going to be done through mitosis. And when it comes to reproduction, that is done through meiosis. Okay. So what you basically have is you have the cell cycle. And the cell cycle is mostly made of interphase. When you go to a lightning game, what do you call those little time sessions in between the actual playing periods? First period, second period, third period. What do you call those moments? Those not moments, but those little 20-minute spans in between. Intermissions. Inter means in between. In movies like Titanic and Gone with the Wind, the movies were so long they had to have an intermission. When my nieces were in dancing school and I went to one of their dance recitals, the show had an intermission because the show was so long, they just had to give the audience and the dancers a break. You know, Titanic is a long movie. Gone with the Wind is a long movie. You need an intermission, just a breather. Go to the bathroom, get some snacks. Well, inter means in between. Interphase means in between divisions. So this is the time after the cell is divided and it is getting ready to divide again. Approximately 90% of cell cycle is spent in interphase. Now, I'm not going to go into the different meanings of these phases because I haven't done that with the other classes. I want to make sure I'm on the same playing field with them and you. So I'm just going to give you what the stages are, and then I'll get into what actually happens in these stages tomorrow. So interphase is composed of three parts. You have G1, S, and G2. I'll get into, this is kind of like a little teaser for tomorrow. I'll get into what happens in them tomorrow. You're welcome to look ahead if you want. Okay. Well, this is what mitosis and meiosis have in common. They both have interphase. But then you can go one of two ways. It just depends on the type of cell you have. You can either go through mitosis, or you could go through meiosis. Okay? In mitosis, you're going to have prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. And again, I'll get into what is happening in all these stages tomorrow. These are terms that you'll need to know. In meiosis, we actually have prophase 1, metaphase 1. Oops, I didn't mean to put a 2 there. Anaphase 1. Telophase 1. Well, at the end of the mitosis series of events, you're going to have cytokinesis, and then you're done. You've completed pretty much the entire cell cycle if you're going to go through the mitosis route. In meiosis, you go through interkinesis, and then you go through prophase 2, metaphase 2, anaphase 2, telophase 2, and then you have cytokinesis at the end. Prophase 1, metaphase 1, anaphase 1, telophase 1, and interkinesis are known as meiosis 1. Prophase 2, metaphase 2, anaphase 2, telophase 2, and cytokinesis are known as meiosis 2. I don't think we talked about meiosis for like 2 weeks, but I just want to give you guys a little intro onto what it is and how it's different than mitosis. These are the stages. Notice that they both start with interphase, G1, S, and then G2, and then it gets different depending on what type of cell you want to make. All right. So let's talk about mitosis first. You all ready to move on? Okay. So let's talk about mitosis. Mitosis begins with one parent cell. The reason we call it a parent cell is because it's the original. And I'm not saying it's the first cell of your body. It's just the cell that you want to replicate. You want to make two cells that look just like the parent cell. You're pretty much going to make two clones of what this cell is. Now, a few things about the parent cell. The parent cell is a diploid cell. Here's one of your first very important terms. A diploid cell, whoops. A diploid cell is a cell whose nucleus has 2 chromosomes per pair. You might think that's redundant because a pair, by definition, means 2. I have a pair of shoes. I have a pair of socks. But there can be 1 in a pair. There can be 3 in a pair. Sometimes there's 4 in a pair when it comes to biology. There's mess ups. So you need to clarify. Now, if you don't know what chromosomes are bundles of DNA. One big bundle of DNA. I like to think of it as you take a fork and you spin your fork in spaghetti, and then your whole fork is wrapped, has spaghetti all wrapped all over it. That's like a chromosome, where the spaghetti is the DNA. Does anyone know how many chromosome pairs humans have? We have 23 pairs. This is a number you all must remember. And I want to share something with you. Not every creature is like a human. Don't get all high and mighty on your own species. Humans have 23 pairs. A fruit fly has 2 pairs of chromosomes. Dogs, geez, how much do dogs have? I think dogs have like 38 or 39 pairs, something like that. So that gets me to my second point. Don't have the misconception that the more chromosomes you have, the more evolved you are, or adaptable you are, or advanced you are. That's not the case. Dogs and chickens have more chromosomes than us. Doesn't mean that they're more evolved or advanced than us. It has nothing to do with it. So if we have 23 pairs, how many chromosomes do we have total? We have 46 total chromosomes. When we get into chromosomal disorders, like Down syndrome, Turner syndrome, Klinefelter syndrome, you'll learn that in some people, they have a third chromosome in a pair. Down syndrome is you have 3 chromosomes on your 21st pair. My aunt has Turner syndrome. That's where she has 1 chromosome on her sex pair. She's a female. She should have 2 X's. She has 1. I knew a guy in college that had 3 sex chromosomes. He had 2 X's and a Y, where a male should just be XY. We'll get into that later. But under normal conditions, humans should have 46 chromosomes, 2 chromosomes per pair, 23 pairs. Okay, now not only is this parent cell diploid, we call it a somatic cell. A somatic cell is a body cell. Cells that make up your body. Anything that is not your sperm or your egg is a somatic cell. Your skin, your hair, not your hair, your muscles, your bones, your organs, your brain, your blood, anything that's not sperm and anything that's not egg is called a somatic cell. That's pretty easy. Somatic cells, by definition, are diploid. They have 2 pairs of chromosomes. For humans, that would be 23 pairs. Okay? And so this parent cell is going to divide. So I forgot to write this. The symbol for diploid is 2N. N means the minimum number of chromosomes that you need to survive. The minimum. You double that, you've got diploid. In fact, the prefix di means double. So we have a parent cell. There it is. The parent cell is going to go through 1 round of division, and it is going to form 2 identical daughter cells. The parent cell divides into 2 identical daughter cells. About a week or so ago, I cut my thumb, and I still have a little bit of scar tissue left over. It's not fully healed. I have skin here on my thumb. I want skin cells to grow back. I don't want bone cells or brain cells or bladder cells growing in my thumb. I want the cells that are supposed to be there. And so when you go through mitosis, you are going to replicate what you already have. Now, you all are teenagers. Some of you are coming to the end of puberty. You really don't have that much growing left. Some of you might get another inch or 2 on your height. But this is what's used for mitosis. Excuse me, mitosis is used for this, for growth, like literally growing up, getting taller and bigger. It's also used for replacement. You know, I'm 35, I'm not getting any taller, but my bone cells, my skin cells, they wear out, just like yours do, and they have to be replaced. Right now, on the very bottom layer of your skin, you have brand new cells. And at the very top layer of skin, the skin that we all see on ourselves, this is old. And this is going to shed off. It's going to fall off, gone. When I do this, there's probably microscopic skin cells falling all over the place. Sometimes if you look closely at your bed sheets and your pillow, you'll see hair and skin flakes everywhere. That's why they say you need to replace your mattress every X number of years, because it fills up with skin cells. Well, in about a month's time, the skin cells that are on the bottom of my skin are going to rise to the top, and then they will be the ones that will fall off. So cells are always being replaced because they just get old and they get worn out and they need to be dismissed. And you're going to, before that happens, you're going to replace them with brand new cells. So let's say that one of you breaks your toe today. Ouch. You've actually fractured a phalange in your toe. That needs to heal. So new bone cells are going to grow in there to help repair that. So there's growth, there's replacement, and then you got repair. That's what mitosis is meant for. You make 2 identical daughter cells. When it comes to meiosis, let's go over here. It also begins with the parent cell, and it is also diploid. Two N means diploid. But it is going to go through 2 rounds of division. And you're going to make 4 daughter cells. And those 4 daughter cells, those are all lowercase n's. I'll tell you what that means in a moment. But in this case, the parent cell, or the parent divides into 4 genetically unique daughter cells. These daughter cells will become something that we call gametes. You can call them gametic cells, but gametes is going to just be easier. Gametes are sex cells. Here's a couple symbols that you'll need to know. If you like to play Pokemon way back when, you're used to these symbols. Here's the male symbol. It's a circle, little arrow coming out the corner. This would be sperm. And the female symbol is a circle with a cross coming on the bottom of it. You have eggs. The only cells in our entire body that are made through the process of meiosis are sperm and egg. But I need to clarify that. Ladies, you don't make eggs anymore. You had all the eggs that you will ever have before you were born. But they're not ready. They're called primary eggs, or the real word is primary oocytes. O-O-C-Y, yeah, C-Y-T-E-S. O-O means eggs. You'll get that in your Latin in a couple months. And then, ladies, when you hit puberty and you start your menstrual cycle, you start your period, your eggs are actually ready. They're mature, and you can actually get pregnant. That's what that means. Anybody ever see the show Game of Thrones? One of the characters in the movie or the show, her name is Sansa. She gets forced to marry this King Joffrey, who's the same age as her. They're teenagers, but he's just an awful person, and she's so scared to be with him. And she's so scared that she's going to be forced to have his kids, because that's just medieval stuff. And she's so afraid that when she starts her period, that means she's ready. She's ready to have kids. She does want to have kids with this guy. And so when you start your period, you're actually biologically capable of having a child. But there's more to it in our society than just the biology of it. And then for males, you guys don't start making sperm until you're probably about 12 or 13 years old. And you won't stop until you either lose your testicles or you die, whichever happens first. I'm sure you've heard of a procedure called a vasectomy. There's a tube that connects your testes to your prostate. It's called a vas deferens. You can get that cut, and that you will still have ejaculate. Stuff will still come out, but there just won't be any sperm. It can be undone, but it also does not affect your hormones whatsoever, because remember that your hormones are secreted in your bloodstream, not in the vas deferens. But we will get into that a little more when we get to reproduction, but this is just a little taste of it. And you saw I wrote these N's here. Anybody remember what they stand for from freshman bio? Diploid is 2 chromosomes per pair. What is the word for 1 chromosome per pair? No one knows? Haploid. The symbol for haploid is lowercase n. This basically means 1 chromosome per pair. So guys, in your arms, legs, muscles, organs, everywhere in your body except for one place, you are made up of somatic cells that are diploid. But your sperm and your egg are gametes, and they are haploid. Because when you and your partner in the future, you two decide to have a child, he or she has 23 chromosomes, you have 23 chromosomes, 23 plus 23, 46. Imagine if your sperm and your egg had all of your chromosomes, like the full count. 46 and 46 is 92. That's not how humans go. We're 23, 23, 46, not 46, 46, 92. Okay. Let's see, what time is it? We're going to start to wrap it up. In fact, we are. Class, no, wait. 6:30, yeah. Bell's going to be any second, so we're going to stop right here. So your new words: haploid, diploid, somatic, gametes. Know those. We'll continue this tomorrow.